This is Grace Notes. I'm Alan Button, and our guest today is Martha Butler. Martha is an owner and partner with her husband of FMCJ Enterprises, which translated, for those of us who know something about eateries in the area, as McDonald's of Moore County. There is a lot that could be said about Martha by way of introduction, and we'll get into that, but let me leave it there and just say, welcome, Martha. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
If we could, Martha, let's start from the beginning. You were telling me before we came into the studio something about your family history. Why don't you start there?
I was born in Granville County, North Carolina in 1947. My father was a sharecropper, and we lived on a farm all my life. So we farmed tobacco until it was not feasible. He didn't make enough money to take care of the family, and he moved to Virginia. And as we graduated, we all transitioned to the north.
You ended up in Brooklyn at some point.
Yes, we did. I met my husband, Franklin, in Brooklyn.
You have siblings, as I understand it.
Yes, there are 6 of us, 3 girls and 3 boys. My mom lives in Newport News, Virginia.
And she is how old now?
She is 96.
96 years old.
Yes. When I was young, my mother always emphasized education. She wanted us all to be educated. And I graduated from Shaw High School. I went to an all-black school all my life. When my youngest brother graduated high school, he actually ended up in an integrated school in Oxford. But we were all on the tail end of the Jim Crow era, where the signs were there. The mood was stay in your place. And it was a difficult transition when I moved to New York because I had never been around any diversity at all. When you say that it takes a village to raise a child, that's how we were raised. We were around aunts, uncles, church members, family members. And when we moved to New York, it was just lots of people and everything was so different.
What year did you move to New York?
I graduated in 1965. I moved to New York in 1968, I believe, because I attended Fayetteville State for 1 year, and then I moved to New York.
1968 was a tumultuous year in our country. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. Bobby Kennedy was assassinated. You had just moved to New York. A lot of things made that a challenging year, I'm sure.
So when I got to New York, the first job I had was in Abraham and Straus department store, and I met Judy Kowalski, who was in the music department, and I met another friend, Ray. We were buddies, but whenever I left the floor where we worked, I didn't talk to Judy at all. And one day she came to me and she said, "Why won't you go to lunch with me?" And I said, "Because I'm black and you're white, and black people and white people don't socialize together." Well, she looked at me and said, "When I look at you, I don't see color, I see a friend." And that was the beginning of our friendship, and we are still friends now. We're celebrating 50 years of friendship. Our families are friends, our kids are friends, and she's an amazing woman, and we're just adopted sisters to each other. That's what we are.
You say she's an amazing woman. I'd say this is one of those situations where it takes two. Martha, you've identified a song that you've told me is special to you. One of the early songs by Stevie Wonder. Tell us about that.
Well, it was really nice to hear Stevie Wonder on the radio. He was young, and I was a daydreamer. We didn't have TV. We did have a radio. So music was my connection to the outside world, and I loved his Purple Raindrops. My birthstone is February, and it's purple, and Purple Raindrops, it just was a beautiful melody to me, and I just loved it.
Well, Stevie Wonder is well known by our listeners, given the music of his that we play, but Purple Raindrops is a new one for us. Let's hear the song, Purple Raindrops by Stevie Wonder. That was Purple Raindrops by Stevie Wonder. If you're just joining us, our guest today is Martha Butler. Martha, besides being a business person, is actively involved in her community in the Moore County area, and a writer, a poet, an athlete, mom, and wife, and grandmother. She does it all. Martha, is there anything else you'd like to say about that song before we move on?
It's just that I love that song.
You described yourself as a dreamer.
Oh, yes, that's true.
I noticed that the lyrics say something about that.
Yes.
I daydreamed for hours and hours, Stevie sings.
That was when I was young. That was when there was not as much to do. But now that I'm involved in community service and grandchildren, I am teaching golf, the unlucky person, taking care of my grandchildren, and mentoring. I mentor my grandchildren, and I joined the board with Communities in School about 11 years ago or so, and I was mentoring one child. I became an in-school mentor. I met with the child once a week, and it was not a difficult thing to do because everyone has a lunch hour, and it was equal to a lunch hour. So anyone can actually commit to mentoring. It was Communities in School at the time, which has now merged into More Buddies Mentoring.
And More Buddies, that's MOORE for
yes.
Moore County.
More Buddies Mentoring of the Sandhills. And you will see that we have fundraising programs. We have More Family Connections programs, which is a 10 to 12-week skill building program with parents and children. They work separately and they learn parenting skills. The students learn skills for children, following rules, social skills, and just basically functional skills as children.
I gather mentoring has been a significant part of your life on the receiving side, too. Is that fair?
Oh, I've had mentors all through my life, and my mentor helped me to get through some rough spots. And now I have mentors who just lift me up and take me to a higher level. I joined Toastmasters of the Sandhills, and Robin Moore has been my mentor all these years. And surprisingly so, he just takes me to places I don't even think I could go to. And in our More Buddies mentoring, we also have a partnership with mentoring the students. And it helps young women ages 14 to 16 to discover their voices and maximize their ability to express themselves. Toastmasters of the Sandhills meets on Tuesdays from 6:30 to 7:30 in the Sandhills Community College, Wellert Hall. So anyone who would like to come and join us, you're welcome.
Tell you what, Martha, I'd like to come back in a few minutes to more of what you're doing and why it is you do it. But tell us how you got from New York back to North Carolina. You spent some time in New Jersey, as I understand it, before you came back to North Carolina.
Oh, well, I guess I'll start with I met my husband in New York, and I did not like New York. I didn't want to live in New York. So when he asked me to marry him, I said no. And eventually, with a mentor, it helped us to cross that bridge. He worked at Goldman Sachs, and in '87, the market crashed, and he decided to look for other means of supporting the family and ended up in the McDonald's program. So he went through the registered app program, and at the end was able to select the restaurant in the Sandhills, and we moved from New Jersey to work in this business. And this business has afforded us the opportunity to support the community in ways we never dreamed of. And it's a beautiful thing. We've been able to help the Boys and Girls Club with a vegetable garden and getting a bus a while ago. We've worked with the fire department. We've worked with the schools. We work with all the schools. And the coalition, we have a room in the coalition. We work with the Ronald McDonald House all over North Carolina and Durham and Raleigh. And we will soon have the Sport a Shirt, Share a Night campaign where you can buy a shirt and it affords a family to stay in the house for a night. And that's a wonderful way to help people who need the help with being close to their family in the hospital.
I take it you're what I would describe as a fairly elevated position in the McDonald's organization has put you in a place where you can be of real assistance. You're looked up to on the matter of race relations or issues that originate in racial distinctions. You've found yourself in a place where you can make a real positive difference. Is that fair?
That's fair. I'm a support person by nature, but this position has propelled me to the forefront. And sometimes we resist, but there comes a time when you have to step up to the plate. And in this mentoring program, my heart and spirit is right with it because we reach high-risk children, and I want to help them. And through these programs, any help they get impacts the child's life in a positive way, and their future is changed. So it's a wonderful thing to be in this position, even though it's amazing that I'm here speaking with you today about my life, which I came from humble beginnings. And when you look at these children that we're mentoring, they are from very humble beginnings. Some of them don't have food, but we really are trying to educate them so that they don't end up in a very difficult place in their life.
A very appropriate segue, I think, to another song that you've identified, Martha. Tell us about it. To Be Young, Gifted, and Black by Nina Simone.
This is a song that I heard shortly after I graduated, and it just became a theme song for me because coming from where I was, I never felt I had anything to really offer. And this song, To Be Young, Gifted, and Black by Nina Simone, just had so much power, and it was so uplifting to say, yes, you count. You can. It's a you can song in terms of the hope and the aspirations and your goals, that you can reach goals that you don't even think you can reach. So we need to empower our young to let them know that they are gifted, they are creative, and they have so much to offer, even though they don't realize it. So as we mentor and help them, they become aware of their own abilities.
Let's hear the song, To Be Young, Gifted, and Black by Nina Simone. That was a song by Nina Simone, To Be Young, Gifted, and Black. Our guest today is Martha Butler. Martha, we were talking before we went to that song about your priority for mentoring and how it actually fits in, is drawn from your own background. Well, I should say to our listeners, Martha has been a longtime board member of Moore Buddies, Moore, in Moore County here in North Carolina, and it fits in well with her priority for mentoring and seeking to improve the circumstances of at-risk children, encouraging them to recognize their value and their potential. Have I said that okay?
Yes, you captured it perfectly.
Fits all right?
Okay.
Good. Well, Martha, I'd be interested in having you tell me a little bit more about your experience as a mother, business person, community service, volunteer, and anything else that you think is relevant in terms of your perception of how things are in our society today and where we're headed.
Well, as a business person, we strive to uplift all of our employees and help them. As a community volunteer, I just tackle events that I'm passionate about, and I help out in any way I can. As a mother, I worry about my son. I worry about him because of the way the world is, and I know that a lot of other mothers worry about their sons. There was a time when my son was in school in New York, and we loaded him up with all these wonderful things to take back to school, and we had no doubt that he was going to take that train from Princeton Junction to the city and be able to get a cab to take him to his dormitory. Well, the next morning I was sitting at my desk at work, and I learned that the cabs didn't pick him up because he was a black man, and that was happening. Now, that was a while ago, but today we have all kinds of concerns about our young black men, and our young mothers really don't know how to educate them as to how to navigate in these treacherous waters of the community because of the way they're perceived. And it can be a difficult time for them and for the mothers. So with that, we just pray for them and hope that we've given them all the tools they need to survive in this world once they leave us.
Well said. You speak for many mothers. You speak for many people who are concerned about the circumstances, the state of affairs in our society. Speaking of which, do you have any advice or suggestions or any thoughts that you'd like to share with our audience, which is Black, white, Asian, pretty diverse audience? Anything that you can say to us?
Well, there's one thing I could say. When you look around and you think that the problems are too big and you can't help, it just takes one person to make a change in a child's life. And you can start with mentoring a child. And in every town, in every city, in every school, there are children who need mentors who can help them through troubled times. When I was in New Jersey, we had a coalition of parents who would support each other and be there for each other's children at school events to let them look and see that someone was out there rooting for them. And that's what a child needs, to know someone is there lifting him up and giving him a boost in navigating through the educational process.
Isn't it true that, well, as you've just said, Martha, I think most of us can relate to the proposition that there are individuals in our own lives, as we look back on our own lives, who made a real difference in who we are and what we've become and where we've gone. I personally can affirm in my own life what you've just been talking about.
Well, when I was young, in the statement, it takes a village to raise a child, I was around my uncles and aunts, and we were all closely connected. Nowadays, families are so spread apart. So it is really good when a community comes together and help each other with each other's children. So I just truly believe that if you feel that there is no way for you to help, just understand that you can mentor a child wherever you are. Just do it.
You've identified another song for us that I understand comes out of your own experience. I'm Blessed by Charlie Wilson. Tell us about it.
Well, I feel that I'm blessed in so many ways. We came from humble beginnings, and I still feel very humble today to be where I am. And it's a wonderful thing to be able to share my story and look back and see where I've come from. We all have talents. We all have gifts. We may not know what they are until we just step up to the plate and acknowledge them. So I feel blessed that I am well, that I am here to share my story. And I just know that you who are within the sound of my voice have a story. So don't sit on your story. Just come out and tell your story, because many people would love to hear that story and the world would be a better place.
Well, Martha, there are a lot more things that we could talk about, I know. But we're short on time, of course, and I hope we can continue our conversation down the road outside of the studio, perhaps, speaking personally for myself. I might note, by the way, that you said before we came into the studio that one of the reasons that you like this song, too, is that it's by Charlie Wilson, and Charlie was the name of your father?
Yes, my father's name was Charlie. So he got my attention with the first song, and then I just kept following him. And the words in this song just helps me to think I don't want to live with regrets. I want to be thankful for each day and know that each day is a blessing for me to be here, because we never know what tomorrow will bring. So we have to make each day count and realize that we're just blessed.
Well, speaking of blessing, it's been a blessing to have you here. We appreciate your joining us today and wish you well, and just thank you for the privilege of having you share your thoughts with us. It's been a real treat.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Let's hear the song, I'm Blessed by Charlie Wilson.
Ask me how I'm doing, I'm blessed, yes. Living every moment, no regrets. Smile up on my face, I'm like, oh, yes, I'm blessed. I'm blessed, I'm blessed, I'm blessed. I'm blessed, I'm blessed, y'all. Oh, I'm blessed.
You've been listening to Grace Notes, a special program here on Life 103.1 featuring people who may be relatively unknown, but who meet life's challenges in ways that brighten the lives of those around them. Our producer is Christina Dolan. I'm Alan Button, and we invite you to join all of us here at the station again next Friday at 5:30 for Grace Notes on Life 103.1.